Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Salut tout le monde. Hey everybody. I'm happy to see everyone that's here that made it through honestly what I think fairly mention probably one of the most frustrating games we've seen. Not from the Montreal Canadiens though. They played genuinely, they played well, and I will give them full credit, even though it was arguably the worst refereeing I've seen in 40 years of watching hockey. But hey, there'll be time for me to cry later. If you have a dollhouse at home with one of those little tubs, bring it out. I will fill it with my tears, okay? Thankfully, we have Kay's with us today, so she's going to be... Listen, we're both very, very tired. We both got about maybe an hour sleep between us yesterday, so we're going to be even more fun today discussing everything that happened. Kay, thanks for jumping on today.
Of course. I'm glad that this was the game because there's a lot to say about it. They played really well, and this is one of the ones where, we've seen them play badly and still win. And this was one where I thought we deserved the opposite. And it's the Rangers, so I hate it 10 times more that they lost. At least Kreider didn't score.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
And hey, let's be honest. Listen, I know people on social media always try to be, Captain Morality, and they say, oh, fights are bad, and they pat themselves on the back, which I totally get that. But seeing Josh Anderson absolutely tune up Jacob Trouba was so cathartic. It was necessary. And I know people will say, oh, what did it add to the game? It added a lot of fun to the game. So, and this is Trouba who, all he does is give out headshots. So it was nice, and I gotta give him credit. He stood up and he really ate all those punches, and he tried to get away. Yeah. You could see how angry Anderson was that he was not letting him get away. So all in all, I give full credit to Josh Anderson on that play. So we're gonna get into this, and big echo,
Mark, just really quickly, chat's saying there's a big echo on your side.
Okay, well, that's fine. We will adjust it.
Yeah.
Last time there wasn't enough, and this should be a little bit better. Are you right now? Do you have headphones in by any chance?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I do.
So I can't even blame you. Right. Either way, they'll let me know. Yeah, it should be fine. They'll let me know about the echo if it gets any worse. So, Kay, we have to beg everyone to share the feed, to like and subscribe, and genuinely we really appreciate the support, right? So we're getting off our feet just now. The numbers are looking good right now. We're moving into getting sponsors in place, because we really want this to run the gauntlet there and give some chances to people that wouldn't necessarily have them. In the mainstream media and in hockey in Canada, there's two companies, right? It's who you know. That's the important part. So, we're so lucky to have people like Kay joining us, because it's fresh, and it's a lot less rehearsed in the sense that you're getting real reactions, right? So if you could like and subscribe, and we have a La Ruche, Andrew says La Rouge, I assume it's La Ruche, campaign going, and as well on Patreon. Now, again, I am absolutely dead tired today, so I'm going to be a little bit cranky, but I will say this going into it, and we're going to discuss all the fun. That was probably the best effort the Montreal Canadiens put together this year at 5-5. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. Honestly, I really, really liked their game. I found that most players were really engaged. I really enjoyed that. I felt like it wasn't just the top line carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Monty had a good game too, despite losing. I thought Monty had a good game. I think our defense had a good game. It was just a good game, and it sucks that it ended like this.
It's okay. Let's just discuss it, because everyone's waiting for it. You all know that I actually detest when people blame referees. It's one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
In every game, in every sport in the world, referees are part of the equation, and human error is also part of that equation. To anyone thinking they don't have a difficult job, you're flat out wrong. The referees have an incredibly difficult job, because it's so fast. Don't forget, we have the bird's
100%.
eye view. They are on the ice. It's actually genuinely difficult to get a good read on everything. I respect Kelly Sutherland. I have high respect for a lot of referees. My high school sweetheart growing up, her uncle was a referee. That's when I realized, man, they make a lot of money. At the time, I think linesmen were making like $400,000 a year or something. I might be completely wrong, but he was making a lot of money. But today, was the perfect example of terrible refereeing, not only impacting the game, but robbing it from the Montreal Canadiens. Now Kirby Dach deserved his penalty, and we'll talk about Kirby Dach. But today, we saw poor work from an NHL employee cost the Canadiens points, and that is unacceptable. Not only there's betting, there's the playoffs, but there's also just the fact that it negated such, like, the Habs had a 15-6 advantage in high danger chances. That's beautiful for Montreal. Today was a disgrace. It was embarrassing, and it pushed me to the point where I'm kind of jumping in and saying, you know what, at this point, with the lack of consistency, or even just, you know, lack of vision from these referees has gotten to a point where, you know, it's really hard to maintain that respect towards them. So after that Josh Anderson, and I'll be honest, that was not even a hit. I've been tackled by dogs much harder than what Josh Anderson did. It was embarrassing.
We know Josh Anderson can do worse. We know that. Like, if I think he said, I can't even remember what it was that he said, but it wasn't even like, even from lip reading, it didn't even seem like he sweared, which is how you know it's really bad. When a guy's just like, what are you seeing? Like, when it's like legitimately like, what are you doing, my dude? It's just so frustrating, especially because I just hate it when, listen, I hate those calls in general, even when the team doesn't score. Because I feel like it has the potential to change the momentum of the game.
Yeah.
But when a team scores, oh my God, is it infuriating?
Absolutely. And again, this is the least deserved win I've seen in a long time. Now, if there's any Rangers fans watching me being super salty right now, absolutely. You know, if there was an ocean beside me, it would be, you know, Dead Sea Ocean, be floating on top for the amount of sodium that I'm producing right now. But we're looking at something that's a recurring issue that absolutely, you know, lowers the value of the product. You know, the NHL is such a fast and intense product. Then you have this bullshit refereeing on the side that's just ruining what would have been a pretty darn exciting game. You know, like, even though the Habs played the Rangers significantly, it was still pretty close, right? So not only just directly impacting, but ruining the product is the biggest issue here for me. And I'm going to try to avoid mentioning referees from here on in, and I bet you it'll last about 30 seconds. But games like this is why I genuinely think we have to have a system in place where at least they need to justify their decisions, because no other poor employee decision, like, if I screw up, Andrew's gonna ask me what happened, tell me what happened, whereas they just go merrily on their way. And you know, it might sound harsh, but tonight was the turning point for me when it comes to the level of respect I have, because Kelly Sutherland is a veteran. He's a veteran of veterans. And tonight was a pathetic display.
So if he's making those mistakes, I opened this call with Mark. I'll tell you, chat. I opened this call with Mark by saying, I am going to be really mad about the refs this game, because I genuinely really, really hate it, because it's now not only affecting the Habs, but it's affecting the Rangers too. Because if I was a Rangers fan, I guess I'd be glad that they broke their penalty. Like, they've been having power play issues. I'd be glad about that. But I'd be pissed that, like, this piss poor effort was covered by what were power play goals. Because they did not play the way they should have against a team of the caliber of the Habs. They should, from the spiral that they've been on, they deserve that. Like, they would have deserved a loss. And if I'm a Rangers fan and I want Chris Drury on, like, the chopping block, I'd be really pissed, because, like, this is a goal. Like, this is a game that looked like, what, 5 games lost? Like, it's just so bad for both teams. And it's just so frustrating, especially when you have players who are building momentum. You have good things happening, and it's just like, well, tough luck. But it's not. You're a human being. It's not a bounce. It's a human being's decision. Why aren't they justifying it? Okay, I'm gonna try to be calmer about this, but I'm so
you just hit the same point as me, where you're like, okay, you know, deep breaths, but you know, even if we keep completely calm, which is probably necessary here, we look at the other play. Okay, Anderson tickled that guy, and you know, obviously that wasn't even a penalty, like in no touch flag football there, you know what I mean? But anyways, to me, the real egregious thing, and that was bad, but the power play that was given to the Rangers after, Dach and a defenseman kind of got into it. Quick, kicked it off by punching Doc, right? Like that was clear as day.
Yes.
And Slafkovsky got a penalty for taking off his helmet, I think.
Getting his helmet put off. Yep.
It was a double
Yep.
minor, which wasn't on the site at the time. So the NHL itself was confused by the decision of their employees. You know,
Which is insane.
Right? So it just goes to show that these two plays directly impacted the game, and they mitigated what should have been really, a fantastic, highly entertaining game. We're gonna move away. We're gonna come back to the referees in a little bit, I promise. First of all, how's my echo? And second of all, I want to let everyone know that we have a fantastic show. Max and Daphne Malbeuf over a Hyperdrive every day. They have a fun approach to kind of recapping what's happening, what's going to happen. So make sure to check that out. That's on the Game Over network. We also have our regulars in the crowd, and we appreciate all of you. And as Outrage says, editor, I believe, on Twitter, I always say when Marc thinks the rest made a bad call, they really dropped the ball. Yeah. Like, I'm on board with 99. I know it. How long did it take me to get back to the referees there? 30 seconds? Anyways, I genuinely think most calls are legit. That's like, I hate it when people blame the referees. This is a perfect situation, though, that you should do that. So I just feel like we kind of call, we're crying wolf a lot when it comes to referees. And but tonight, there's no crying wolf, right? It was embarrassing. It was genuinely embarrassing for the NHL, and I hope they recognize that their employees are down, devaluating the company. And again, okay, we're moving away from from that Anderson penalty. Let's talk about Josh Anderson in the last few games, Kay.
He's been. I'm proud of him, which is an odd thing to say about a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
But I am genuinely so proud of him. I'm so happy. Honestly, the trajectory of the season overall, but like specifically the last few games. Sorry, Chad is saying that it's reasonable echo, but it's only noticeable when you're farther away from the mic. Yeah. So yeah, for myself, I'm really finding, I feel like near the end of last season, Anderson was like disengaged physically, which is not something that's like really his calling card. You know what I mean? So it took away, not only was he not scoring, but he was taking away another factor of his game. So I'm just really glad to see, like, it's always really nice too to see a guy who is struggling just kind of get it going. It sucks to see a guy struggle,
Mm-hmm. It's with veterans, and we kind of saw it with Andre Mark. Okay, I fiddled with my mic, so honestly it was just like genuinely fiddling, so let me know how that goes there, if the chat could let me know. It's when we're looking at a guy like Andre Markov, when he lost his speed, right? Like, well, he never really had it in the first place, but he got smarter as he got older. He kind of changed his role, right? So you have to anticipate a little bit better.
Yeah.
Anderson still has that speed, so with the elevated effort, like, I think we're probably praising a little too much concern. But hey, he scored 4 goals, 6 assists. Like, that's much better pace than he was on for yesterday. Whew, yes, I am tired. Last year. So he's providing value to the Habs, and we're seeing, him and Gallagher, I would argue, are leading the emotional charge right now. And that's important for a team that, gets screwed by the refs or has a hard time every outing, and that's the Habs. Now, all of this to say, I get tonight is frustrating for the Habs, and they really deserve better. I was proud of Arbor Jacki for not just losing his mind and unloading.
Yes.
He actually held back and got a power play for that. Yes, twice.
Yeah, it's just Mark, you're a little quiet. You're very quiet now, apparently. So I'll go off about Arbor Jacki. This is something that, like, I think we've seen this season just grow. Mm-hmm. He's had some questionable calls that have come, I think, from like reputation more than anything. Unfortunately, he's just gotten there. But overall, his discipline has been really, really nice to see. And I think he's now starting to walk the line between physicality and getting himself in trouble. And I think the refs are also starting to not call like reputation calls as much on him, because they are also seeing that he's getting better about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Outrage says Arbor's never done anything wrong in his life, which, well, agreed.
Tonight they were goading him into it, right? Like, usually with Arby Arbor, it's like throwing a half-eaten bull in an Amazon river. Like the piranhas will jump on it immediately. So I have to give him credit for not just absolutely demolishing Carrick, because that would have been even worse than the Jacob Trouba fight. To me, the key part here is we're going to see, yes, Arbor's doing a bit better. We're seeing guys, the veterans, emotionally. I think it might sound stupid for me saying that. It wouldn't be the first time, but this was a good loss in the sense that you can genuinely be like, we deserve better, and if we put that type of performance in play, yes, it was the Rangers and they've been struggling, but this is something you can build on. And fans might be frustrated with hearing that, but the Habs have never had such a high advantage and high danger chances. Like we're talking, 15-5, 17-5, whatever it was, that's triple the amount of chances the Habs usually get. And 3 times fewer than they allow. So, this will go down as it's not the Montreal screw job per se, Brett, but it's close. This was pretty close. And I think Martin St. Louis will just kind of use this you want to rally the troops, you say it's us versus them. Look, like it's even the NHL's against us. So I do think they'll be able to build on this.
I'm just honestly, can I be real? I think it's petty and I know it's childish.
Go for it. I live for petty. That's where I'm a Viking.
For me, I tweeted like for the first instance where I think I can't remember who you just said his name, but the guy who's trying to goad him into a fight, who Arbor was like,
Carrick,
actually no.
Carrick,
yes, Carrick, who is also, by the way, would have been physically wrecked. So yeah, that would not work well for him, but good on him, I guess.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of the Rangers game last night. It seemed like they were just dead in the water.
Yeah.
So I appreciate a guy trying that, but like maybe try it with another guy. Pick Gally, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Gally will probably get him too because he's scrappy. But my point being that I'm just like at the beginning of the game when that happened, I was like, Arbor's not gonna. Is he supposed to fight everybody and anybody? And then near the end of the game, I was like, Arbor, fight anybody and everybody.
And it's a bit of a confusing message I'm hearing my own echo. What is going on today? Oh, well. Because I think the Habs did say tone it down to a certain extent. But tonight was the type of night where, it wouldn't have been too bad if Arbor would have because he really could have mauled the Rangers, let's be honest. And as Danny Joe mentions, he turned down a fight too. Yeah, well, that's exactly what Kay was mentioning there. I know you wrote it before she mentioned it, but that is a huge sign of growth for Arbor Jackeye, right? And I really do appreciate it. I think I was pretty harsh towards the media members and the fans that were kind of missing the boat when it came to Arbor Jackeye because the analysis in the last 2 years has been absolutely terrible. Like, it's made no sense whatsoever. But I think everyone's laid off to a certain extent. And Martin St. Louis is showing that trust level as well. So I think he's kind of stopped giving him the rookie treatment. The referees are starting to stop giving that rookie treatment. And that's just good for everyone. Like, I know Arbor Jackeye's a tough guy, but regardless, if you think the coach doesn't trust you or you're not getting into every game, confidence is hard to build on. So, we're seeing him just put together solid performances. And, it's very important. And I got someone that went into my DMs there the other day, and surprisingly, he was angry, but he just laid into me for how useless third pairings are. They don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And my reaction to that is, well, if you have a bad third pairing, you're guaranteeing for a quarter of the game, you're getting outshot, outscored, right? Like that's a guarantee. Why would you handicap yourself, before you even get going? So having guys like Jackeye, I know he was second pairing technically today, but very important to have solid people on the back end. Now,
generally,
and we'll talk about more of the fun stuff that happened today, including Cole Caulfield's goal. But first, I want to say hi, Claire. How's it going, Claire? And thank everyone in the chat today. We got Trinka, Danilo, Trezak is here as well. Daddy Habs Journey, who asks, do you think the refs have vision care in their benefits? Because they don't see the trip on Armia with the puck right there. That's another one. Dying seconds. Did you see that?
That was rough. Yeah, actually, Armia mentioned it in his press
Did
release.
he?
So I was checking out some of which Armia's the kind of guy where he very much does not give great answers
never.
To the
Oh,
media.
I thought you said he doesn't fall down. I was gonna say he rarely does. But
yes. Also, no, he's not a your average a certain Ottawa Senator guy. But also, sorry, I just had to. But
Even Brady
also
Kachuk, right? Yeah.
yeah, of course, of course. But like, well, he's not that either. He doesn't fight near the end of the game.
True.
Uh, but to me, like, for him to say that, that like, actually, it's really just nice to see a guy just be like, in a just kind of pointed out that like, hey, not thrilled with that.
Yeah.
Um, but apparently Marty had like a minute and a half presser, and
That's what I want to see.
every
No,
single
yeah.
question,
Yeah.
he said, I loved our game, but I'm not going to talk about the refs.
Good.
That was his answer to every question posed to him, which, yes.
I was expecting, I mean, if I'm the Habs, I pass the hat around and you give it to St. Louis and you're like, here's a prepaid fine. Like, have fun. But there's little value, right? Like, that's the other part of it. Have you ever noticed Nick Suzuki, even after the worst games, never criticizes a ref? And I
No,
get it. Some
yeah.
people say, oh, that's no, he's playing the long game because they're humans like anyone else, right? So just as you and I have been petty today, referees can absolutely be petty in their application of the rules. We've
Especially
seen
as the
it.
captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially as the captain, because he has to do a lot of the talking. He has to play nice. And
So there's no
I
point
think
in
it's
St.
a
Louis
good,
going
good
all in,
balance when,
right?
like, yeah.
Yeah. But
I think it's a good answer when, like, I think it's a good dynamic to have another player who doesn't play so much of a big role kind of just given, even then, polite about it, like in a very, like, is Armia Finnish? Because it's a very Finnish answered, very Finnish way
very
of
Finnish, yes,
answer.
absolutely. They're I have Finnish friends, and they're the ones that always tell me how how do you know a Finnish guy's laughing? Like, he's not laughing, and I'm like, what? But it's very true. MFM is in here too as well. How's it going, buddy? We're gonna Le Lench says hi, Mark and Kay. Now, beyond the bullshittery, is that a shenaniganery?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to bullshittery.
We got there.
Overall, we saw a very solid game from Lane Hudson. And this is 2 games in a row now where he drives down to the, keeps the puck far away from his own goalie and sets up Nick Suzuki for a crucial goal. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the Rangers because, they deserve to score that late goal. Even though it hurt, that was Kirby Dach just kind of having a brain fart. But I really appreciated what Lane Hudson did tonight because a couple lost pucks, but we're seeing he's getting better at that. And his defensive coverage is getting fantastic as well. So, he's driving the play in a meaningful manner. And every game, it seems like Lane Hudson takes a step forward.
Yeah, so it's kind of just I'm not sure if you've seen the meme, but it's like a screenshot of I don't care if something good happened to you, I want it to happen to me.
No.
I edited that and I made it, I don't care if your rookie scores a goal, I want it to happen to Lane Hudson.
Yeah.
So I'm like just kind of I'm glad that it doesn't seem like that's on his mind as much. I'm sure it is. He's a human being, but I'm glad to see that he's not so focused on that he, the forest among the trees, I guess, or the trees among the forest. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love being on a show with Mark because we're both like ESL people, so like we'll just say the weirdest shit, and it's great.
Both tired too. We're both tired too. So with English as our second
yeah.
language. So yeah, exactly.
But
as Claire mentioned, La Bullshitterie could be a new dépanneur in Montreal. Yeah, that would be a fantastic little spot there. Absolutely. I would go there. Hey, Mathias, you're mentioning I'm not going to talk about the refs. Yeah, that was me kind of trying to move on. But as me and Kay made very clear, we're super petty, and we will get back to that just disgrace.
I think they're talking about Marty. They said that I wish he would. I get why.
No value.
They pick favorites and they hold grudges, but yeah, I wish they would. I know. But I also get the petty urge to be like, I wish they would.
Oh yeah, man. Petty, like I mentioned, petty is when I'm a Viking, and the best response from the Habs is really just using this to kind of galvanize you, right? It's man, if we're getting hit by the referees, we have to work that much harder to do it. And tonight, I think, was one of the rare games because, we always complain about them. This is one of the rare games where it like legitimately directly changed not just the outcome, like the momentum. The Rangers were floundering. Let's be honest. After that quick lead, they were floundering. So, it's just really unfortunate that, the story tonight, because you have great goals, a big fight, intensity.
Yeah.
the story ends up being the zebras, right? So, you know,
See, I also I don't know if you plan on talking about it later, so I don't want to break your flow, but I'm really also happy with Nick Suzuki's game. I know he's been catching a lot of flack, and I saw your commentary on that as well. Um, okay, so here's the thing. I try not to engage with this shit on Twitter, because I know people are just kind of looking for reactions,
mhm,
but this is our show, so I'm gonna say what I need to
go
say
for it.
here. I saw someone, and it's just one guy, so I know it's not the entire fan base, but this is for that one guy specifically. We are not trading Nick Suzuki. He is not a player who doesn't. Yeah,
Hold
I
on,
know,
hold on,
Mark.
hold on.
I know.
Reverse.
It's
Beep,
just one guy,
beep.
but I've been thinking about him forever. You know how I am. I picked up on this one thing, and I'm like, I'm gonna think
So,
about this for the rest of my fucking life.
was this before Suzuki scored the game winner last night and the game tying
This
goal
was
tonight, or what?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then somebody posted and he was like, it's just one goal. What did he do? And I'm like, dude, way to double down, right? Like, I
What
don't
did
know what you're doing.
Nick Suzuki do? You know, I think one of the main reasons a lot of people get really critical with him is he just doesn't have that like boisterous. Remember Josh Georges? He was the go red go type of leader. Which, listen, I know it seems like that really makes an impact to me. That's absolutely useless. That's pageantry. You know what I mean? Like if you can't get motivated as a professional athlete, you don't. The guy in the corner saying "Go red, go" really shouldn't have an impact on you because you shouldn't be in the NHL. Nick Suzuki leads by example. That's exactly how
Yes.
the best captains in Montreal Canadiens history have led. And I'm not going to start naming the names, but he's following in their path. So this
Yes.
idea that any little mistake from Nick Suzuki is some sort of legitimate reason to go after him, I is genuinely born from intellectual dishonesty regarding his overall performance. I'm saying they're being idiots.
I think it's like,
Is
I
the way
think
to
it,
go. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's like really a preconceived. First of all, I just don't think people understand how to read a player who plays the way Nick does.
Mhm.
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the way he plays. So a player like Nick Suzuki understands that he's not going to outskate the faster guys in the league. That's just not what his strength is. So he saves it. He tries to figure out how he's going to work with his
His
brain.
strength is
And
exactly it's the computer
yes,
between his shoulders.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that means that it doesn't always look like he's always on. That's because he's
I love
moving
it.
strategically.
Yeah.
He's not moving in a straight line. If you want a player who skates fast, moves in a straight line, does, like whatever that's the only thing that they can think of doing, you're looking at Josh Anderson. And like, not like, I'm not insulting him, but that's just his role on the
Hmm.
team.
Hmm.
He's an energy guy. At this point, Marty's realized that he's not a top, he's not like that kind of guy. So that's what Anderson does. A player like Nick Suzuki can't. If that was our first line center who was just playing north south, straight to the net, try to win with my speed, that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
And it's brain that are things like, the so I think a lot of Hudson's woes have been in terms of on the scoring sheet have come from his teammates just not knowing how to
A lack of
work with him.
anticipation.
Yes. And we see that, like, we're seeing chemistry build between Suzuki and Hudson. And I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I've personally seen some chemistry build between them.
Mhm.
And I think that comes from the fact that Nick can keep up. Like, just brain wise, he can keep up. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was my Showly once every show mention of Nick
Surely,
Suzuki out of the
I
way.
like that. That's surely, yeah, yeah. It's not by surely or it's surely. Is by surely twice a month or twice a week though? That's the thing we don't know. That's it.
Yeah.
David just joined the phrase, so thanks for joining us, David. Matthias mentions, yeah, my bad. I really thought you were talking about me complaining, but I get why people want Martin Saint Louis to go on and off on them, but it's just there's legitimately no value. Like it feels. Have you ever been in a situation where you end up in a fight with someone and you tell yourself I'm gonna feel so great when I'm done with this fight, like I can't
Yeah.
wait to punch this guy in the face. You never feel good afterwards. So it's it really, you realize like, man, I feel worse now. So I get the sense Martin Saint Louis was just playing the long game, but him just repeating the same thing, that's what Claire says 6 times in a row, that's the message is sent.
Says something.
Exactly. And keep in mind, everyone was watching. This was the only afternoon game, so everyone was. Yeah, absolutely, everyone was watching. Now, what you mentioned. Oh, and David W is here. How's it going, buddy? What you mentioned earlier about Suzuki, I find so fascinating because I genuinely believe perception's a big reason why some people perhaps fail to see the value of some players. Now, if you all allow me to rewind a little bit, there was a time when the Montreal Canadiens had a center called Lars Eller. And they ended up getting rid of him. It wasn't a direct trade, but they got 2 picks for him. Then they paid 2 picks for Andrew Shaw. Andrew Shaw, who actually had the person, I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking on the ice, he actually had pretty good numbers. But the reason everyone thought that he was amazing is because this wasn't as strong as Eller's, right? So he was constantly chasing the play, hands flailing, going all out. But you have to do that if you can't anticipate the play. Whereas Eller, if he was usually in the right spot at the right time, and it's like, oh, he's lazy. No, he doesn't have to work as hard as the guy that can't follow the play. This is him using his intelligence to get ahead of the play. Now, obviously, Andrew Shaw.
And I was a Lars Eller girly.
There you go. And it was the same thing as Arturi Lehkonen, right?
Lars Eller girlies.
Right?
I think you.
I was absolutely.
Also Lars Eller girlies.
Endless with TSN 690. I had the endless freaking, and I remember one of the last shows I did because I started doing my own thing. Like I did free shows for them for years. And the last thing I got told was like, well, Arturi Lehkonen is not the kind of guy you'll ever win a Stanley Cup with. In fact, he's the reason the Canadiens are so bad is because of Arturi Lehkonen, who immediately scored a game-winning Stanley Cup clinching goal, like months later. So, I love the guys at 690, but Mitch Melnick, you failed miserably in your analysis of Arturi Lehkonen, and you know it.
Just generally were really hard to analyze for people who just. I don't want to say lazy analysis, but sometimes you just see guys like skimming the surface, and I think those kind of players, and I think we're seeing that kind of discourse play out on Nick Suzuki. Yep. On a much bigger scale because of who he is, the role he plays,
and how he plays. What you mentioned there was just so important. It's the perception. Now, again, I want to finish up with Mitch Melnick. What he was saying is that he was really going at Lehkonen for some reason, but what he was saying is like he can't really be your top guy if you're going to win something, and that I absolutely agree with. But I always took Lehkonen as kind of a barometer for how people, if they see the surface or if they actually see what really happens, the consequences. But hey, I feel like I complain enough, and I probably shouldn't be bitching about Lehkonen. Like it might be time to move on from Lars Eller and Arturi Lehkonen.
Can I just really quickly? Really quickly.
Yeah.
I love Lecky, and somebody who I watch the Habs a lot.
Yeah. I
and I love him. I love having him on that team. He's very important to that team. I think Arturi Lehkonen is a complementary player. So I have some trouble with people, and I'm not saying this to insult him, but he's playing on a line with McKinnon and Rantanen, right? I think that I don't think he was ever going to be the player he is in Colorado, in Montreal, because he's, like I said, complementary. So you need primary, pieces. Yeah. And I think I don't think he was going to reach that in Montreal, and it's nothing to do with him. It just has to do with who the team has. And I just want to get that out there because I see this a lot. I see people pulling out his stats from Colorado, which amazing. He's very important to that team. But that doesn't mean that he would have performed the same way here. And I'm going to die on that hill. Sure. I know people disagree, but that's my hill that I've chosen.
It's a great hill. I will say complimentary is probably the wrong word. He's a glue guy. That to me, you can have all the pieces in the world, but if you don't have a foundation there, it's falling through, right? So
that's fair.
Rantanen and McKinnon, they all score a lot more when Lehkonen's there. Like we saw at the beginning of the year, the Avs were really bad without Arturi Lehkonen, genuinely bad to the point that, I was talking to some guys over there and man, we're better than this, but this is worrying us how much we're losing without, that guy in the lineup. Yeah. Now, I absolutely agree. It's all about how they use him, right? Lehkonen was used in a third and fourth line role. The only time the Habs used him in the top six and on the power play was his rookie year when he scored 20 goals. And then they stopped using him there, and he stopped scoring those goals. So I wonder what happened.
Yeah.
But, he's the type of player that you hope Kirby Dach can kind of develop into and become an impact player like Artturi Lehkonen, which brings us to our next little... I know we discussed Kirby Dach at the beginning of the show, but we're going to jump into the second period now. And honestly... Ooh, hey, it changed everything. Kate, you go ahead, because I need to... actually, no, I'm going to go back to the first period, because it absolutely screwed up my feed here. We're back in the first period. Bad refereeing and bad producing. All right. So, Kirby Dach, let's talk about it.
Yes.
Tonight, I thought he was one of his better games, and it's really
unfortunate.
It's
an unfortunate.
It's frustrating for him, right? Because he put together a good game, and all anyone's gonna remember was the Steve Bégin terrible penalty with 2 minutes left, right? So I really hope the guys kind of rally around him tonight and point out, like, hey, listen, we all took penalties, that was bad, but you had a good game. Keep up on that, because I genuinely feel confidence is the issue right now for Kirby Dach.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. Not his. I don't think the penalty was a sign of bad play. Careless, maybe. Just that happens. It happens.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like egregious. I don't think it's like really bad.
I like how we're both looking for words, because again, English as a second language, and we can both kind of like, we're both each other's Chantal Maccabi. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. But I would say that, like, that's my concern. Isn't necessarily that I thought his play was concerning. Mm-hmm. I'm concerned because I'm not sure if you saw him in the penalty box. He looked miserable.
He looked dejected. Yeah.
His head was down. His face was red. He seemed really down on it. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that the team kind of was able to reassure him, and Marty reassured him. And that internally he was able to hold on to that confidence, because that would be a really sucky way for it to drain away. Yeah,
and it seems like his mistakes, and I don't think they're that often, but they're just so glaring. It's a perception thing again, right? It's a lot like Justin Barron. When
yes.
First of all,
sorry, didn't mean to scream that.
Everyone yesterday kind of lost it on Justin Barron when he hit. First of all, no, you don't. That's accidental. But second of all, if Laine can't take a mild contact, then he shouldn't be coming into play yet. You know what I mean? The doctors cleared him, so I don't know why everyone was.
That was a mute Justin Barron's name,
right? Everyone just absolutely.
I was gonna fight.
Exile him on an
all
ice
my mutuals.
Flow. Yeah.
I was gonna fight so many people, and I was like, this is just a moment where, for my personal relationships and my health, this is time to mute, because it's so insane. I feel like people just aren't. Listen, I understand the situation with Barron. I understand. I just think that it's a situation where it's snowballing.
Yeah.
Because something happens, it looks really bad. Anything else that happened in the game kind of just is taken over by that bad. And then it's snowballing because it happens. People become more and more critical. People are more likely to get mad. So it's just a snowball effect, I think. And I just have my Justin Barron feelings, and I also have my feelings on his, even if I wasn't a fan of his, I just think that this is a situation that needs to work out for the Habs, or something's got to give. So yeah, sorry, that was just a side rant, but I just needed to say it because
fantastic. Hey man, that's
we're in our rants mood today.
Get more petty. If you get more petty, that'd be fantastic. The thing with Justin Barron is really annoying, because he's actually having a pretty it's so hard to say he's having a good season, right? Because his mistakes are so glaring, but if we just kind of take emotion out of the equation, he's actually having a fairly solid season, especially for him. And he's one of the few players who can actually produce in the back end. How many goals did he score? Either way, he scored the most goals on defense last year, I believe. Maybe Matheson had one extra, but his amount of goals.
I'll check that, actually.
Yeah, his amount of goals, though, for his ice time was fantastic, because don't forget, he spent a lot of time in the AHL as well. So Martin Saint-Louis asked for more offense from his back end, so I understand why he's kind of overlooking these mistakes. Or not not overlooking, just kind of being.
I don't think Marty's overlooking
No,
anything. I
but
think he's being actually a little bit.
Oh yeah, he's being harsh on Barron. I thought but either way, putting them into context, right? Because this is how you learn. That's like Barron at this point can't go back to the AHL, so this is how you learn. And you know, he's gonna make some mistakes. It's the brain farts, which are the really bad ones. But all in all, I do understand why Justin Barron's still involved here, because Logan Mailloux, as much as he's scoring the AHL, he'd be the worst from a defensive aspect by like a country mile right now. David Reinbacker's injured. No one else is really, you know, taking that mantle right now. Mailloux and others will eventually maybe end up there. You know, even Engstrom could end up there depending on which side he plays. But I get why the Habs want Justin Barron to succeed. Now, the other part of it, I feel
Mark, I have news.
What's up?
This is really funny.
What?
The 2022-2023 Montreal Canadiens, and this is just pure points, not going off games, just pure points. The highest is Mike Matheson. Can you guess who the second highest defenseman with the most points is?
Last year or this year? It would be Gouli.
Last year.
Oh, last year would be. I think it's Barron actually.
It's David Savard.
Oh, there you go. The offensive dynamo that is David Savard. Love that. Absolutely love that.
Sorry, just needed to let you know that one.
Fantastic. Now let's maybe move on a little. Actually, I can't load my chat right now, which is really frustrating. So if you can take a quick look, that would be great. I'd appreciate that, Kay. Juraj Slafkovsky is another guy who's kind of had a bit of a hard time finding his rhythm this year. Now, I genuinely believe the criticism for Slafkovsky has been really, you know, blown out of proportion.
Yes.
Before he got, like, he was the third highest scorer in the team before he got demoted, and he was right there. He was right there with the boys. Now, the lack of goals is an issue. His shots are down. That's a big issue as well. But I would guard against.
Just a second. I will be right back, but you keep talking.
Sure. I would guard against the idea of putting Kirby Dach and Juraj Slafkovsky in the same boat. Slafkovsky's controlled entries are better. His defensive play is better. His overall points per 60 until the demotion was was much better this year. So all in all, I'm pretty happy to see that Juraj Slafkovsky's kind of regulated his own issues in the last little while, because I really felt like Martin Saint-Louis was probably being a little bit too harsh in his respect. The other side of it, it's year 3, right? It's gonna switch up our whole feed now. No, there he goes.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're switching slides. This is what I was talking about as I was setting up the frustrating part of using this setup. Anyways, Martin Saint-Louis has shown a lot of patience for Slafkovsky, and I appreciate that. I just didn't feel like, you know, demoting him to the fourth line was really merited at that point, or justifiable at that point. That being said, you know, eventually you're going to have to start getting some production from these guys. I feel like Slafkovsky's responded fairly well. Like, Slafkovsky had a pretty good game today too, until I think he got penalized because his helmet got ripped off. But I feel like the worries about. I don't
think that can be put on him.
I feel like the worries about Slafkovsky this year are a little bit exaggerated due to the lack of shots.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing in the chat that Danny Joe is saying that where they're similar to me is shot shy and the indecisiveness that causes, and I can agree with that. I think that's one of the things.
Yeah.
But I think overall, if you look holistically, you can kind of I think that, like, overall Slaf just thank you pulled out my college words.
I was thinking like holistic healing. Never mind, not holistic. Oh boy, Marc est fatigué un petit peu. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, but it's
like you're doing sage around Slafkovsky and like some oils and stuff, and I'll stop now.
Honestly, could be. No, but for me, it's just a situation of, I think that, like, it's just a different situation, because I think people were saying Slaf's not being physical, he's not engaged. I don't think that's true. No. I think he was doing everything except shooting.
Yeah. Now the issue is that he was shooting less often than every defenseman in the lineup, right? So that's where it becomes like a. Yes. Now I think a lot of that has to do with usage, and I know I repeat myself a lot, and sometimes I say the same thing, and other times I end up using the same words to describe the exact same situation 3 times in a row, like I just did. But, you know, with Slafkovsky, usage was one of the main issues I think that also mitigated his shot output, right? If you're jammed up, if you're playing the Dino Ciccarelli role, jammed up right against the crease, you're not going to get a ton of shots. Now, that being said, once he does have shooting opportunities, like his goal the other night, fantastic, but it felt like it took 45 minutes to release, you know what I mean? So I mentioned it last show. I think it would still be, there's some value there of just getting pucks there and Slav, shoot 100 times a day. Mario Lemieux did it, Wayne Gretzky did it, you know what I mean? Crosby still does it, and that's the reason they ended up being amazing, is that you got to keep up that training. Like all the best athletes in the history of the world kept it up when they were number one. They didn't, pull off the gas a little bit. So I'd like to see Slafkovsky just always be constantly taking a ton of shots. Oh yeah, Outrage mentions here the Victoire are about to hit the ice. So Montreal Victoire led by Marie-Philippe Poulin and Laura Stacey, obviously the other half of the amazing Montreal duo. You have Aaron Ambrose is there. There's a bunch of young players. Mentis Grant and Kyla Mentis Grant or Grant Mentis? Grant Mentis and Maureen Kennedy, younger players that are looking to take that next step. And then they have I always call her Anne-Marie. It's Anne-Renée Devien and Julia Chuli, who was fantastic last year in net. So the Montreal Victoire. I can feel my grandfather Théophile just spinning in his grave as I said that. The Montreal Victoire have a really fun team with just a ton of talent. So if you get a chance, go see them. They're in Laval right now, but I'm pretty sure it was sold out, which is, man, that's cool, eh? That we're seeing 10,000 people. I don't know if they opened.
Their new unis look great, which I agree. Absolutely.
Oh, love it. The color, it's the Montreal Maroons color, and I love the idea
Gorgeous.
That they didn't just fall under the umbrella of the Habs. I felt like that was the worst decision the Montreal Stars, who became the Canadiens, ever did, because you're just in the shadow of a league that doesn't give a crap about you. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Now that they're on their own and they have a billionaire who's richer than every NHL owner combined involved, it's just gravy, right? So I had a chance to speak to Matthew Wilkes. I did a conference a couple weekends ago. Well, sorry, I moderated. I'm not smart enough or pretty enough to be the person, speaking, but I moderated it with a few people, including Matthew Wilkes, who runs, promotions and sponsorships, and he grows the league. And everything I'm hearing out of the PWHL is just pure positivity, And this is risky because year two is usually, you have that bump and then it goes down. But it turns out the main issue, they didn't get the logos ready. It was all about the legality of it. So it's copyright. That's what really screwed them up. Yeah. But he brought up a really interesting point to me because I criticize them for that. And I really don't like the idea of launching a team without a logo, speaking of Utah. But what he said, and this is why he's next level and why he's working with the league, he said, sure, everything you said, Mark, is fine. But guess what? In the first year, all people ever mentioned was PWHL, PWHL, PWHL. So in that first year, essentially, they built up the league brand. And then I'm thinking like, oh shit, he's absolutely right. Like all we were talking about was the league name. Yeah, that's just brilliant. And I'm thinking, man, a missed opportunity. But now that they have the colors, which are fantastic, the cream is beautiful.
Gorgeous.
They're getting those sales on top of building up their brand for the PWHL. So, again, it's not ideal and you don't want to do that, but he brought up a really good point that, the only thing anyone was talking about was the league. And that's exactly what the league needed. So this year is going to be a little tougher. Support goes down a little bit. There's always the pseudo support from people who pretend to, to enjoy it. Yeah. And that'll fade away. But everything.
Honestly, Mark, I don't even care if I don't even care if people are faking it. Just tune in.
That's fine. That's fine. Just and the cool part is they're trying new rules too, right? Did you see the new rules they're putting into place? It's beautiful. A lot of them are like the NCAA.
I'm not sure I love the latest one. That's the, what is it?
You have to stay, if you're on the ice for a penalty, you have to stay on the ice. Love that. Love that. Oh my God. Love it.
Do you love it?
To the moon.
I think it's going to lead to some really terrible plays.
Awesome. Perfect. That's great. You know what I mean?
If it leads to more offense, I was watching, actually, speaking of hyperdrive hockey, they had a great conversation about this on, I believe, last week's episode. They had a really great conversation about it, and Max pointed this out where he said that's one thing he thought was lacking a little bit last year was offense, and this would create more offense, which I think honestly offense is always exciting, which I'm sure goalies would hate to hear. They're like screw you. They're like screw that. But I think anything that puts, I guess I could see that. If there's anything that just creates more excitement, I would love that. The the breakout rule, I forget what it's called. Jailbreak.
They did it first. The
breakout.
NCAA started doing that too, after the
Yeah.
PWHL did it.
It's sick.
I love that.
Sick. Love it.
And just the overall innovation there has been absolutely fantastic. Now, here's the biggest issue, in my opinion. Like, I'm not an expert on women's hockey. I've followed it for over a decade. Jared Book is the one who taught me about it, and he knows everything. You know, before I read an article,
Great follow, guys.
yeah, I
Great
should
follow
I
if
should
you
just
want to know more.
I got to give him a byline in half my articles ever written about the PWHL. Now, the biggest issue, in my opinion, was the fact that they had the best goalies in the world, like the 8 or what was it? It was 5. So the 10, 12 best goalies in the world. The backup, like Chuli, backing up Desbiens, Chuli ran with like a 960 last year. I'm probably wrong. It probably went down. But behind the gold medal winning goalie for Team Canada was a goalie who actually put up better numbers, right? So you're facing the cream of the crop of goalies. And that has brought down the goal scoring.
Yeah.
That has genuinely brought down the goal scoring. But as like goalies are a step ahead right now in the women's game, and as everything catches up, it'll normalize. But I love the innovation, and even if it fails, they tried. Right, that's the key part. They tried, and we see it. It's so rare.
They don't seem afraid of trying new things, which
Exactly.
is lovely. There's none of that, which is like. I wish the NHL did more of that, although they'd screw something up and make it like a terrible decision, whatever it was. But my point being, they really don't have the same, they're not taking the same kind of risks in terms of like, if something goes wrong, it could really go bad for the PWHL. But they're still being like, the NHL is still being like, try something new, cowards. Although, to be honest, every time they try something new, it's like a horrific decision. Rules that they change.
How about the Four Nations? Are you excited about Four Nations that's coming up? Like, the Habs aren't going to have anyone, I don't think. Maybe Caulfield.
I don't think so.
I don't think. Look,
don't think so?
They already picked 2 guys that are like leagues worse than Montembeault, and then you're talking about Tom Wilson getting a chance in the 4th line. Like, listen, come on, I'm going straight to that bullshittery after work. I'm gonna go buy some chips and.
You know what, Mark? Mm-hmm. If Suzuki doesn't get on the roster, we should prep for a monster season from him. Yeah,
because he'll want to kind of show, and he's not the kind of guy who'll get mad. Yeah, you're right. He'll kind of put it on the ice, but it's because there's this perception that what Nick Suzuki does with the Habs, if he was with a good team, he'd be worse, which is the most ridiculous logic.
That's insane.
He's doing great with a bad team, so if he'd be on a good team, he'd do worse.
Yeah.
The fuck does that mean? Anyways, so Caulfield might get on. I'm guessing they're gonna try to do the 4th line a little bit like Salt Lake City, where they just put up, like, I forget the players, but it was just a joke, right? And have a good rough 4th line. You don't need a rough 4th line. Just play your best players and go from there. And Suzuki, if he does, he'll be kind of bottom 6 penalty kill. But that'll be good to show a little bit why he was getting those Selke votes. I really don't think they trust Montembeault, even though there's no evidence to suggest Hill and Bennington are better at anything
or any more trustable.
Yeah, unless you want to whine for 20 minutes, then Bennington's your man. But all this to say,
or you want to throw a water bottle at a player of color with like weird implications under that. But that's fine.
Cool. I didn't even hear about that. But yeah, chalk one up to Bennington.
Kadri.
There you go. Well, the issue I think as well is that I don't see much value in this. Like, listen, I don't want to be a wet blanket, but the Four Nations thing does not excite me whatsoever. It's they say best on best in the NHL ad. That's a lie. That's absolutely a lie. Best on best. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
like, it's 4 countries here. So I like the idea of what they're doing, and it's funny because at that conference I did at the John Molson business conference, the NBA guys were talking about how everyone hated the in-season tournament year 1, but now everybody loves it. So I could be wrong here. It could just be me being like very petty once again, or just kind of dismissing it. And
definitely understand what you're saying, though. I understand. Like, it's 4 nations, guys. It's literally 4 nations,
right?
And like, I don't want to get into like everything else of it. I understand the context, but really, like, this, what was it? The second highest voted player is Russian. So like, we can't claim to say it's a best on best. No. It's just not. And I think like I think this could go well. Do you remember what was it? The
Young Stars, yeah, the World Cup.
The one that had the young guns
World
in
Cup.
it.
Yeah, that was right after Weber got traded to the Habs. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's. Yeah. Who knows?
Now the reason that was fun is because first of all, I believe it was like Team Eastern Europe. I forget what they called it, like rest of Europe. There, like Team
Yeah.
Iron Curtain ended up in the finals. Like, like I'm pretty sure Team Iron Curtain ended up winning that tournament. So it was cool because the teams that we weren't expecting. Yeah, Canada kind of faltered, USA kind of faltered, and then that part I did like. I just don't. I have absolutely no reason to find it exciting right now. Again, I could be wrong, but there's a strong possibility. Maybe Armia would get on Team Finland, but probably not. Laine, obviously.
God, I love him.
I know, but they're not going to put Laine on because he's injured. So that you're looking at
I know.
Montembeault. And if they really want to follow the Tom Wilson thing, maybe Arbor Jackeye should be put on the third pairing. Get some grit on your third pairing. No, they're going to put top quality defensemen there because that's the way to roll. Hopefully I'm wrong and it kind of gets a little more exciting. But right now, I get the sense the Habs aren't going to have a single person in that tournament while they're hosting it. And that kind of mitigates.
That would really suck. That would really suck.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump into the third segment. You know why I said that last night? Okay, so when I can't sleep, I just open Wikipedia and go crazy, right? Like I start with one thing and then I just end up with four.
Elite.
So, yeah.
Elite.
So I was checking out Napoleon's Italy campaign as you do at 4:30 a.m. Videos I've already watched though, they're 2-3 hours long. Anyways, yeah. And all this ended up. I started looking at archaeology and then. For some reason, I started reading about the biggest, most complete dinosaur that ever got sold, and it was a Stegosaurus. So that's why my brain right there jumped and said Stegosaurus. Now you know the madness that happens. In my mind. So yeah, well that's a good point too. David mentions I thought the NHL was best on best. Yeah, to a certain extent. It's just that it's watered down, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the
bestest on best.
This is a hotel making mimosas. Like it's the orange juice isn't even pure orange juice, and the champagne has been watered down. So, Claire here. Oh, Danny Joe mentions the shirt is pure fire from the Montreal Victoire. Oh yeah, love it. Can I say? Guys, I hate the rest of the jerseys in that league, and most of the logos are pretty terrible, aren't they? Or like I never mentioned it. Senators is terrible. I'm sorry. Charge?
It's knockoff Flames.
And it's not even like a better version of what the Flames do. It's a worse version than what the Flames do. But either way, still got to support it. And it's tough to look different.
I think it's not even a question. The Victoire do have the best jerseys. And I will not entertain a debate about that.
A lot of people criticize and they're like, oh, wait, you can't say Victoire. And then I'm like, well, you just said it. Yeah. I understand. It's not exactly all that friendly from an Anglophone point of view, but Victoire is something that everyone can say.
Suck it up.
And, well, yes, this is exactly because every single other name in every sport, though, has that exact same situation for francophones. Now, I don't want to get into all that, but representation matters, and in this case, I'm all for it, right? So, Remedy says, gonna get, I love Suzuki, but he's not good enough to be on Team Canada. He might have an argument, they might have an argument there, but I don't think you can dismiss him outright when you're talking about a guy like Tom Wilson. Like that's insane, right?
I don't think he'd play anywhere near the top of the lineup, but I do think that's a guy that, and let's be real, I know this isn't like Hockey Canada picking, but just generally across the board, Canadian national type of teams, they like having safe defensive kind of smarter players. So I think by nature of the fact that they seem to be considering Tom Wilson ? And B, having security near the bottom of the lineup, I think we could make an argument, and I certainly will because I will. But I understand, but also just realized I haven't gotten my Sholi, which is now going to be a thing, by the way. Sholi Caden Gooley mention in.
Is that having lots of shawls all over the place? Just I'm Sholi walking around now.
Exactly. So let's go Gooley Nation. That's all I got.
Para Diggity joins us. You know what? I in the long run, Nick Suzuki not going is great for the player and for the team. He is ground down into dust every single game. You know what I mean? He's been doing this He's been the
I
only good
agree.
player for years. He doesn't even get time off for
But if
the
you
All-Star
said that
break.
to him,
Yeah.
if you said that to him, he would like pants you.
He would.
He would be so mad.
The first thing I ever said to Nick Suzuki was at a prospect tournament in Belleville, the glorious metropolis of Belleville, and they were in these old school lockers, right? Like really like high school locker style, and everyone was looking at Ryan Poehling because Ryan Poehling had played one game in the NHL and scored 3 goals. So, or did he
Which
even
was
score in the
really
shootout?
funny.
Or, yeah, which is he pulled a Jan Bulis, but
Incredible.
just on his first game, right? Jan Bulis versus the Flyers. So I ran a poll that year, and I said, where do you want to see these guys? And everyone is saying Suzuki, maybe back to junior, or like nobody anticipated him to come up, and I kind of had that same attitude going into it. So I walked up to him, and he was kind of in the corner, and I asked him, hey man, like this is going to be a tough roster to crack. I never said like guaranteed, but what will you do if you end up in Laval, to get back up to this pace, to not really lose that momentum that you built? Because he was great in the playoffs, he did really well. And he just looked and he waited 1, 2, 3, and he's like, I don't expect to be playing for the Laval Rocket. I'm going to be playing for the Montreal Canadiens. And I was like, oh, damn,
Yeah.
bud. But in the least arrogant and like most factual way possible. And I think that really describes Nick Suzuki well, in the sense that he's got all that confidence in the world, even though some people don't think so. But he's got the skill to back it up. And turns out he did not go back down to the AHL. A few weeks later, I met his mother.
See, it's like yeah.
Sorry? It's
Sorry,
like what?
I interrupted you.
Oh, that's fine.
I interrupted you.
I always interrupt me. Now, a few weeks later, I was speaking. So COVID's starting to happen, right? Or maybe it was the year after. Either way. And his mother, who Amanda Suzuki, is one of the nicest people you will ever meet.
She's really
And she
yeah,
knew
love
at the
it.
time, my mother was sick and I couldn't go see her. So it was really a difficult situation for me. So she was bringing food from Ontario, like stuff that I just mentioned
Yeah.
that I missed. And like hell of a
Yeah.
good dip, for example, is something that they have in Ontario. It's tough to find here. And she was bringing me like bags of chips and dip.
Oh, that's so sweet.
And I'm thinking like, what did I do to deserve such a, it's
Yeah.
it's not the cost, but to me that was like, holy crap. Like I understand where Nick Suzuki gets his strong morals and his why he's such a mature adult at such a young age. And I turned around, it was pouring that day. So she comes out of her hotel, it's pouring. Like ça cogne des clous there en bon français. Gives them to me, and I said, hey, like I'd really appreciate that, and I want to tell you something. I hope this isn't too much pressure, but your son's going to be the next captain of the Montreal Canadiens. And I just kind of wanted to see their reaction, because no one had talked about it at that point at all. This is the beginning. And she just looked and said, yeah, we think so too. So it was like, okay, there's that, but it's not arrogance, because guess what? It happened.
It's not arrogant if you're right. And like, to me, that's the kind of thing that like I think of when and I love this story. I've heard it from you before, and I love hearing it every single time, because that's the kind of thing that I think people just don't see when they say things about
He's not
why
engaged
he's not and I think they just don't like see that part of it, because obviously like if you've got a captain like that behind / in front of you, you kind of there's that steadiness. So I remember I once read something from Ken Dryden, I believe, that which like love hearing him talk. He's got like a nice soothing voice.
He loves hearing him talk too. That's the one thing with
exactly.
The one thing Ken Dryden could never stop was
thing
himself.
Yeah, but I was reading this quote from him where he like described Carey Price as a security blanket, and like why the team felt comfortable playing in front of him. And like maybe they felt a little bit too comfortable and they should have done a little bit more, but that's a different conversation. But they felt comfortable in front of him, and it gave them the confidence. And I think kind of Nick Suzuki plays like a similar kind of role. Obviously he's not back there in net, but I think he's saved a few goals in terms of he's literally, do you remember that one in the bubble where he almost got his like head taken off and Carey Price just saved him like from the
Time has
very
lost.
slightly?
I think I was one of the only people at that game, because it was so weird watching games. I was watching the VIP zone with no one, and it sucked. Like I realized, like, oh my god, this is. But no, I don't remember that part. I remember Carey Price stealing.
That was versus the Flyers.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say I remember Carey Price stealing Mitch Marner's soul and Jason Spezza's soul, and he ruined Mitch Marner and the Leafs in the playoffs forever.
It was the season before.
Oh, okay.
It was the season before.
No, I don't remember that one. Was that the one where he
It was
tapped Carter Hart on the head? And now that
No, that was all sick. That, yeah.
but
Love it.
now we know, Because at one point, Rob
No
Suzuki,
commentary.
who is just a very, you have the yin and yang in the Suzuki family. So, and I'm not saying Amanda's
He's very fiery.
well, Amanda's actually is very fire herself, but very very smart. I don't want to give, but intellectual. Emotional, intellectual. What's the word I'm looking for? Emotional maturity. Either way, she has a pretty yes, emotional intelligence. Exactly. Yes. Rob is a little more on the application side, but it's just the perfect balance that kind of fed into building Nick up as a. Dave calls him a superstar here, but I don't know if we're at that point. But I will say this. You know who else Ken Dryden mentioned when he was talking about Suzuki? And I hate bringing up his name because obviously he's my favorite player of all time and no one will ever come close to him. But there's a reason that Jean Béliveau's name, Monsieur Jean Béliveau, Le Gros Bill's name, comes up when you look at Nick Suzuki's leadership style. I'm not talking about impact or anything else, but leadership style, that is what Suzuki does well.
Breaking news, Marc Dumont says Nick Suzuki is
just like just like him.
I'm not even gonna say it because if I said that full sentence, somebody's gonna.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I'm a guy. I can get away with anything. I throw bullshittery is my strong point. But to me, the ultimate sign of a captain is when you command respect. You don't, a la Brady Tkachuk, demand respect because that's bullshit. That will fall apart. But if you command respect, then everything flows naturally. And Nick Suzuki's a guy who commands respect. And Ken Dryden absolutely recognized that. And anyone that wants to disagree, go talk to Ken Dryden and the best teams in history of the NHL. See what they say because they recognize that in him. And hey, listen, let's be honest. He's 21 points in 23 games, 22 points in 20. He's maintaining almost a point per game this year. Like, come on.
Also, just really quickly, guys, I know we had a few new people come in and new chat.
Man, you're so smart. You're so good at this.
No, I was just going to say, would just love if you guys would like the video and subscribe to us. Yeah. You will be seeing my face tomorrow, along with Ian Beauvert from Locked On Canadiens. So be sure to subscribe and like this video. We really genuinely appreciate your support. I honestly, every once in a while, I just think about it and I'm so honored that people tune in to listen to me and whoever's on just talk. Like, isn't that lovely, Mark? Isn't it so dope?
It's the same thing I said every time. Like when I got hired by the Habs, it was really just a right. And by the end, it was completely like my job completely changed. But I was like, man, why? I wouldn't listen to me. Like, I wouldn't even follow me on Twitter. I can't unfollow myself. All of you can. So you have absolutely no excuse here. I'm telling you right now. Now, really, like, jokes aside, go follow Kay. If someone in the chat can throw her name or her Twitter handle there. And this is a fantastic example of Kay. How many shows have you done now? Maybe, 6, 5, 6, 2, 1? I'm not great at math.
Around that, 6, 7.
And you're already to the point where you're feeling like, and again, this isn't anything you necessarily train for, but feeling comfortable. And I feel very comfortable just kind of handing off the reins to you for the rest of the year. If now me and Andrew,
I love it. I love doing this, guys. I promise. I love this so much. So, you guys are so great. I love doing this.
While I couldn't understand, now when I see the praise you get, I start to understand. Obviously, I was never as polished as you right off the bat. And, maybe I was a little more guarded and I would sugarcoat things and try to kind of hide my message. So you're already at a point where it took me several years to get there. And tomorrow, Outrage is saying we're beating the Bruins. I don't know. The Bruins are kind of having a Rangers-esque fall from grace right now, aren't they?
I don't think they had their new coach bump, which is how you know it's bad there.
Yeah, I feel like I think it's also exaggerated. I still think they're in a playoff spot, right? I'm gonna check right now.
It's like a weird, I think they are, but it's also has something to do with how terrible the Atlantic is this year. But that's neither here nor there.
The Panthers are first. Well, okay. The Lightning just never die, eh? The Lightning never die.
They refuse. But what was I saying? Yeah, I was saying that I think, first of all, 1 o'clock is such a weird time.
I'm so confused and lost right now.
1 to 3.
I'm like the Cats.
1 to 3. Like, why can't we do 1 and 1?
You know the Cats
you
when they realize
your house as a cat and you're like, yeah.
No, the feeders when they know there's a timer, they wait by the feeder. That's me. Like at 7 o'clock, I'm gonna be at my TV waiting for hockey to be fed to me. This is so confusing. And for the longest time, Thursday, I was sure it was Friday. I was making all the plans in the world because the Wednesday game should have been on Thursday, right? Like I'm old and I've lost 90% of my gray matter, so
such weird timing.
Stay with me. But yeah, I've had a hell of a time trying to figure out the last little while. Here's an interesting thing, and I'd like to we're going to wrap up pretty soon because we're going about a buck and a half tonight. Okay, tonight's game was frustrating, and I absolutely understand that. In the grand scheme of things, the Montreal Canadiens have a legitimate shot to draft first overall, and that wasn't expected this year. Like, basically right now the only team that
wasn't either
is Chicago's 1 point behind them. That's all. So as much as tonight's game was frustrating, and it absolutely the Habs deserved to be pissed off, they were the better team by a huge margin, this might be pretty good in the long run, because right now no one's doing the race to the bottom kind of like last year, right? Like Chicago just no shame, absolutely no shame, went for it. San Jose, no shame, went for it.
Gross. It was gross.
Legit gross. It was a gross way to live. Thank you. That's exactly what it is. This year it seems like no one's really going for it, and I don't know if there's any really Schaefer, Hagens. There depends who ends up being the first overall, but
I've heard good thing about Misa, I think.
Yeah, Misa. Well, he had a fantastic game against the U.S. National Development Team, and every time I've run the lottery, which I was running it yesterday, I'm like, man, this is way too early to be running the sim. But Michael Misa was the guy.
Listen, here's the thing. I run it, but I don't share the screenshots because I know what my blood pressure does when I see them, because I'm like, how dare you? I do it, but how dare you personally?
Ever notice every time someone does, I only did it once and the Habs won the first overall, like, oh yeah, that's weird how that was a coincidence. But all this to say that we're seeing some improvements from the Habs. Obviously they're not at the point we wanted them to, but if you can add a top 3 talent this year, which I genuinely didn't expect, that is such a huge advantage. Then the Habs are going from drafting first overall, fifth overall, and another top 3, top 5. Oh, monsieur, like that's pretty darn good. Kent Hughes would have no excuse at that point
something that Paradiggity is saying in the chat is no bona fide number 1 game changer pick this year. Could be a Yakupov Estraf, which I'd like to point out a little bit. Also, I think the Habs got a little unlucky with love Slav, but that was also a draft.
Bad year to draft first. As simple as that. Yeah.
I could definitely see what that's saying, but also on the flip side, that also means that maybe if you get 3rd, you might still get the best player in the draft.
Or 5th.
You could. It's
well, Celebrini will be better, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be super. Which obviously would love to have a bona fide superstar, but let's be real, they don't come along just all the time.
No, absolutely not. And even if we go back, when they got Kotkaniemi and they got Galchenyuk, you look at those drafts and you're like, okay, yeah, sure, Brady Tkachuk would have been better than Kotkaniemi. I will say this, I genuinely believe Brady Tkachuk is a bad captain, and that's one of the reasons holding back the Senators. And the fact that he has to act as a captain. I think this is one
of the things I really step away, where I really disagree with a lot of Habs fans. I think he's a really good captain.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he demanded to be the captain.
Results.
The fact that he demanded to be the captain, or else he was going to throw a tantrum, to me shows that he has absolutely.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah, or else he wasn't signing this extension. He needed to be captain. That to me, if you have to be the guy saying I'm the smartest guy in the room, you're not, right? And if you have to be I'm the leader here, you're not. Again, you command it, you don't demand it. And I also think it hurts him, right? Because man, he went to the University of Claude Lemieux, and he graduated with honors and in a degree in shithousery. He's such a shithouser. Yeah. But that's part of his game. So when you're the captain, you can't really, it's kind of like if the Habs would have given Gallagher the C. You're like, it's better to remove him. That's one of the big reasons
why I really disagree with that take.
Yeah. Because I feel like
Galley take, that's one of the things.
I feel like Tkachuk's less efficient now that he can't go full shithousery every single game. But anyways, all this to say is that the Habs that year, it could have been slightly better, but that year wasn't strong. Neither was the Galchenyuk draft, and neither was the Slafkovsky draft, and that's just kind of the way.
So I will say I feel more and more comfortable with that pick every single day.
Oh yeah.
Which maybe it's a little early to say, but I feel more and more comfortable with that.
Which one?
With that the Slafkovsky pick.
Oh yeah. If you're gonna take a home run, or a home run swing, that's the time to do it. My guys were. I really thought Nemec, and I still think he will. I don't know what's going on in New Jersey. It was Nemec, Jiricek, and Cooley were really my guys. And I've said this before, but right before I went down into the locker room to announce Slafkovsky to everyone, my last words, and it was pretty stupid. Obviously, I wasn't well educated. I'm like, as long as it's not the guy that really just lit it up in the Olympics, because those never work out. And I went on like a 5-minute rant on why you have to avoid him. And like, well, you got to go live and say good things. And I just flipped everything. I'm like, well, he scored a lot in the Olympics. He scored a lot.
I remember that stream, by the way. I remember that stream. You were convincing. If that helps, you were convincing in terms of it seemed like you really meant it. But I definitely get it. I think we've seen that happen before, where players just get their inflate their draft capital from like 1 or 2 tournaments, and it's rarely a good idea. I just think Slav just had good timing, and I'm honestly, Mark, one of the things that this last slump has really made me feel even better about him, like even more than just obviously we need him to be good on ice, but I think this him just genuinely, I'm sure he was bothered by it. Of course he was, and he showed that. But he took it on the chin. He very much was I'm on the 4th line, that's that. And then he worked his way off it. He was not I think he's pretty strong mentally, especially for a kid his age. Come on,
at 18, genuinely? He was already rock steady in that department. And that was one of the things that I'm like, man, this guy will work out. You'll go check it. I said right off the bat, this guy's going to work out well, because without any prompting, and the Habs probably didn't want it, but he just kind of made his way outside the Bell Center and started introducing himself to Habs fans. He was the first overall pick, and he was like, hey, I'm the first round pick. And then it was okay, he gets it. He understands the importance of that link with the community. So that was a...
And if we ever win the CUP, not going to say it, if we ever do the thing, the parade in terms of the things Slav will do on top of whatever.
I hope he gets drunker than Ovechkin.
That whatever. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. We have some fun personalities on our team right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, some quick comments from the chat. Remini says about Tkachuk, who else would be captain? I don't know, but I and again, it's hard to prove, but they've been underwhelming ever since he's been named captain. I'm just saying, and the referees don't like them. They do not get a lot of calls, and part of that is, I know it always looks like he's smelling a smell for the first time ever, and that's not a big deal. Being a little bit of a piss baby is fine, but the referees genuinely don't appreciate him, and that's a negative. That is genuinely a negative.
Biggest piss baby on the Habs. Yeah. He's the biggest piss baby on the Habs.
Oh, Matthias brings up a good point here. Chris Neil wore an A for Ottawa for years. Yes, the A is fine. Absolutely. And Chris Neil, it's funny. I was a huge Habs fan back then. Now, I'll be honest, I've disconnected to a certain extent. And I always said, oh man, I hate that Chris Neil. If ever I see him once, I'm going to absolutely destroy him. And I just walked by him at the Palladium, which was the name, I believe, at the time of the Canadian Tire Bell, whatever it was called, the Ottawa Arena. Man, they're so much bigger in person. Chris Neil could have just picked me up and crushed me with one hand and kept walking. So turns out I didn't beat up the guy who was much taller, much bigger, and much stronger than I was.
Oh wow! Breaking news trade.
Yeah. So Remedy says Juraj got traded. That's
Yes.
What did they give up? Damon Hunt, a first rounder, a second round, and wow. So nothing. Well,
that's not.
Minnesota is going to be a top team this year, right? Aren't they rated at the top? So it's going to be a pick between 28 and 30, or 26 and 32. That is a terrible trade.
I don't like
But okay, if he's going to be bad, here's the other part. Juraj might not be as good as we originally anticipated. And if you're going to make these moves, I like the idea of doing it now, because there's that risk. But if you're convinced he's never going to go up, it's better to be a little preemptive, right, with their approach there. But this feels a little hasty from the Minnesota Wild. A little hasty.
Yeah,
Hunt, a first rounder, a second runner in 2027. That's 10 years away. Huh.
That's
interesting.
A choice that was made.
And he's a right-handed, because remember when we first talked about him, left hand, plays on the left. No, I was wrong. Absolutely on the right.
And our chat was immediately guys, he's right-handed.
Idiots there, yeah. That's why I love our chat, man. They're so good at. Yeah, that is really bad. Now the other part is, as Remini says, that can't believe the Habs couldn't do better. I think Kent Hughes is kind of slowing down in the whole reclamation project thing, and I get it. There's always it's fun because there's been good results, but as we saw, these projects aren't finished. Doc is not a finished project, right? Like, so,
There's a reason they're on a. This is a reason. There's a reason why they are available.
ding, 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 ding. So, and everyone this year's like, oh, why did the Habs go get Doc? At least they didn't pay a high price. Well, as you just mentioned, it was a refurbish. Let's put it that way. So, I don't know if this will necessarily work out. It should work out for the Wild, especially because they're playing well. And I believe Sutter and the other guy, anyways.
I know exactly who you're talking
was
about.
it Parise? I'm thinking either way. No, Sutter and the other defenseman.
Parise, yeah.
Yeah, was it either way?
Yeah,
Are
Parise.
still on the books this year, I believe. So next year
there was a bit of a betrayal on Shea Weber. It was a whole thing.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, there was a whole story behind that. But either way, so next year the Wild might be pretty darn.
Let me tell you, as an Avs fan, I hate that.
So okay, is Damon Hunt? But he's not serviceable right now, right? Like, is it? Wow. Well, as Per Diggity says, they're pressing reset too early. But I'm telling you, if you're convinced, you better do it early. But like if the Habs, for example, Riley Kidney, if they would have pictured, okay, right after the draft, okay, this guy's skills won't translate to the NHL, you move it right away because it's nothing. It's only going to keep going down, right? So, yeah, if you're not going to work with him, at least they got a first round pick back. But that's poor value for a guy. What was it? It was 2 years ago, and he was 6th, 4th, 3rd. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's sixth overall.
But again, I do like the idea of being proactive if you're convinced that a player, won't work out. So, yeah, Paris.
That's why I also think that like a Doc trade is not a good idea right now, because I think we've missed the proactive window. Which, like, by the way, I don't want him traded.
No.
Just like I do want to make sure that I'm like I want to give him his flowers because like I know I give him a lot of shit too, but yeah, I don't want him traded. Don't get me wrong, but like people who are like, let's trade him. We've missed that window. Like it's not you're selling way too low.
I remember this summer I was saying like it's gonna take him half the year, and people are like, oh, that's no problem. We will be game 2, and they're like, that son of a bitch. Why isn't Doug scoring? It's gonna take, but it's not just rust, right? There's something going on in here. Bernardo brought up the best. You're probably too young, but were you ever on HF boards?
No.
Good for you. You're lucky. The joke was always every player that come up, can you get Crosby? And it was always Michael Ryder, Halak, and a second round pick. That was the package, because you're giving up your second goaltender, you're giving up a guy who can score goals, not a ton of value, and a second round pick. And that really does feel like kind of what they did there to get Juraj. So Columbus is where Timmins is. Yeah, absolutely. He is definitely there. And as Remley mentioned, so they have Faber, who's been just lights out. Zeev William, who, anyone who watched the NCAA last year, was like, man, okay, this guy's got just a ton of talent. And Juraj, that's a lot of potential, but not a lot of guaranteed. So hopefully, trades in the NHL, we need more of them. I think, and I'm going to let you bring us home here, but I think we've kept our fine folks for over an hour and a half.
I think we're at like 122 at this point. Which like I really appreciate you guys, by the way.
Right?
We, like I said, Mark and I are yappers. We will yap.
Me?
If there's one thing we will do, it's I'll yap. Mark, I don't want to speak for someone else.
I've never been known to talk. No, I'm not. No. And Matthias brings a really good point here. I don't like who wants him and what. That's the thing. We don't know if he would actually be a positive for the Habs lineup right now, and I just don't think the Habs need another reclamation project. They just. Like, man, they're doing full archaeology here, right? And they're dusting off some pieces that are cracked, and it's very difficult to get that. Danny Joe mentions the best defender.
Quickly, yes.
Best defender in the EPL. No, repeat that. The best defender in the EPL, which is the English Premier League. I still write EPL too, but I think it's been changed. Took 2 years to get back to his form after an ACL. Are you talking about Man City's Belgian defender there? Either way. It takes a very long time to not just get your timing back, but to get that confidence, right? And we're seeing right now that Kirby Dach doesn't have the confidence. And as you mentioned, Kay, you absolutely nailed it. He was having such a good game, and that little mistake, when you're saying, I hope he doesn't dwell on it, that's going to be the important part here, is saying, Kirby, 95% of that was good. So, it's so hard because I really believe Kirby Dach cares a lot, and like it hurts him. Like, I'm not trying to say that, he's weak emotionally or everything. That's normal. That's normal. Absolutely. He wants to do good, right? So it was unfortunate in terms of perception, but I actually thought Kirby Dach had a pretty darn good game. As Claire mentions
Just
here,
really quickly,
great. I'm going to throw it to you and then we're
sorry,
going to
I
end
just
it.
wanted to.
No, hold on one second.
Yeah.
Claire, bye Claire. Great. Oh, great stream. Thank you for coming. Bernardo was here as well. Who says the Habs deserve points? Absolutely. But think of the first overall pick. And all our regulars here were just, okay. Van Dijk. So he's a absolutely, probably one of the best defenders in EPL history, I would say. Yeah, Man United. And that's it. That's all. Now, because I mentioned Man United, I have to mention Arsenal because I am bound. That is my team, and that's why behind this smile, I'm sad all the time. Take it home, Kay.
Yeah, not to keep this extended, but just really quickly, somebody said, MFM said you mentioned Timmins, and now reminded of the Bergevin piece that came out this week.
Oh yeah.
Just gonna say one sentence. I don't think he's learned anything, and that's the sign of a bad leader is a leader who can't self-assess, and that's all I'm gonna say on that.
Oh, that was good. All those stupid motivational posters we should have, because like I've been in a lot of billionaires off. Oh no, not a lot, but more than most people, and none of them have those stupid motivation posters. I will tell you that right now. But I like that. That was great. That was a really good line. That was
Of course.
We're all going to be heading home here. We love your presence. We genuinely appreciate the support. If you can let other people know, stream them, share it, subscribe, and tomorrow we have a fantastic show for you, and you'll get a break from me. So it's been a great weekend for everyone, especially since you won't have to see me tomorrow because Kay will be hosting with Ian Boivard, right?
Yes, from Locked On Canadiens. Great. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a Bruins game. There'll be shenanigans, I am sure. Yeah.
Shenaniganery. It's shenaniganery is the term. Shenaniganery.
And shithousery and bullshittery. Yes.
We're coming up
et cetera.
With some great. It's funny because there's a running joke with Arsenal is that the thing about Arsenal is they always try to walk it in. Do you ever watched what was it? It was the show about the British guys that did the tech support is IT. Anyways, and that's the joke. I actually thought about that last night about 5 a.m. and I got angry at the joke because I'm like, it's not always true that Arsenal walks it in, and that goes to show you how exciting nights are when you don't sleep, when you have insomnia. Merci tout le monde. Thank you everybody, and you'll see Kat tomorrow as the Montreal Canadiens take on the Boston Bruins. 3 p.m. start, so we'll be live a little earlier. I appreciate everyone in the chat, honestly. Merci beaucoup. It really means a lot to us, and we will see you tomorrow.